Welcome to Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay, a weekly shot of truth serum for your investment and insurance questions. I'm Josh Knoll, the owner of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jay Stubbs, the Regional Director for First Protective Insurance Group. We are brought to you on the Prime Capital Investment Advisors Podcast Network. We have another very special episode for you all today, and we got another special guest, Mr. Will Steih, the Managing Director of the Prime Capital Investment Advisors Tennessee office, which is based in Nashville. And Will also serves as a CPA, so he brings his CPA hat to the table. You're joining us on our Business Owner Strategies and Solutions campaign, which we are endearingly calling our B.O.S.S series, thanks to Jay. It's a great idea. It's a 5-part series specifically designed for the retirement needs of successful business owners. In this episode, we are going to dive into non-qualified deferred compensation plans. If you're a business owner and you want to learn more about these concepts, you need to listen up. Before we get into all this, let's have our friends from Sloth Racer Band kick us off. Jay, Will, how y'all today?
Excellent.
Good to be with you, Josh. Good to be with you, Will. It's the holidays. Merry Christmas to each of you. Merry Christmas to Deep Fried Studios and Johnny Gwynn and to Travis behind the camera.
Yeah, doing a great job. Will, thank you for joining us, coming down from Nashville, gaining 30 degrees in the drive.
Thank you for having me. It's the sun kept getting brighter and the temperature was warming, and I knew I was heading in the right direction.
All right. Well, we are on the fourth part of our B.O.S.S series, non-qualified deferred comp. It's a 4 of 5-part series. Everybody needs to tune in. Jay had mentioned in the previous podcast, if you're listening to this one, take a jump back after you're done with this one. Listen to the other shows we did related to business owner planning. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Before I jump into our topic, I got to do a little housekeeping for compliance. Jay Stubbs and First Protective are not affiliated with Prime Capital Investment Advisors or Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, and Will Steih is not affiliated with Gulf Coast Financial Advisors or with First Protective. All right, Jay, I'm going to start with you. Why should a business owner consider a non-qualified deferred compensation plan?
Well, I'm going to start off with the answer to that question with a question. And did you know that a qualified retirement plan, like a 401k, that tends to discriminate against the business owner or the highly compensated individual?
How so?
Because they're capped. They can only put so much money into a qualified plan in a calendar year. I do believe that cap in 2019 is roughly $280,000 in compensation for that business owner. So if you've got somebody listening to this thing and they're making more than that, there are other selective executive benefit plans that they can put in place, one of which is a non-qualified deferred compensation plan. We as advisors can sit down across from the table from them and show them how that thing works, how it would play out, and what vehicles they can, or what tools they can use inside of that plan to grow their assets over time for their own personal benefit or some key employee's benefit down the road. So what I like to say is it's reverse discrimination. Hey, I've got to put all this money aside for all these other people. I really can't put all the money I want to aside because cash flow and revenue and business is good. What are some other things that I can do? Insert non-qualified deferred compensation as a topic of consideration. Very
good. Well, in previous conversations Will and I have had, you mentioned reversed discrimination, right? And what you mean by that is when something is a qualified plan, everybody has to be treated equally, right? And there are certain businesses, a lot of businesses where you've got kind of top heavy to a certain degree. You know, you've got the owners, maybe the related ownership group, you've got high level employees, key employees. And sometimes that business owner not only wants to do something for themselves, but he wants to do something a little additional for them. Is that fair? Is it fair to call some of this, we always hear the term golden handcuffs. And I think, Will, I'm going to go to you. You had a great term in our conversations. You called it the reverse pink slip. What do you mean by that?
Well, I challenge a business owner to envision it's Friday morning, it's 10 a.m., and in strides through the door your top salesperson. And he or she lays a document on your desk that shows and reflects your biggest competitor has now made an offer to hire them away. And, of course, your first thought is, this can't be happening. How is this happening? We always encourage any business owner as we consider this, and often I use the phrase carrot and stick, or carrot and or stick as a part of this. If a business owner hasn't taken steps, some that seem really too elementary to have missed, but we've had it happen, in particular in Nashville, I'm thinking about some construction companies that were talent, qualified electricians, engineers, architects, you name it, that's driving that big part of our service industry in Nashville is to find and identify, retain, and then reward those qualified people. Big challenge. And in the case of reverse pink slip, it's that person striding through the door, and all of a sudden you're hitting the panic button because you're thinking, oh no, they could effectively go back. If you only had 2 salespeople and they represent over half the volume, they could pivot and go to the competitor and begin to pick off these relationships that you have and redirect that revenue. That's a big deal. So what I tell business owners is, first of all, have an understanding and have a very fundamental legal document in place, which is a non-compete or non-solicitation with that key employee to make sure that you've at least put up the fence against them being able to leave and take clients, customers with them. And at the same time, they'll say, well, that's going to be kind of a challenge to get this person to sign it. I've never done that before. Well, that's the stick. The stick is this agreement that they're going to sign to continue to be employed by your organization. But then we need to combine that in tandem with a carrot. So the carrot that they're going to offer out is what Jay was alluding to. We're going to select them as a part of if it's not just them solely, but a part of a targeted group that we want to retain and reward for their participation, not only for recognition of what they've done in the past and where they're at currently, but what you hope they do in the future. You want to create that carrot incentive there for them to say, oh, okay, well, I'm happy to sign that because I see here you're going to be contributing 25, 30, 35, some dollar amount that's significant to them into the future. And they say, hey, if I stick around for the next 5 years, I'm going to fully vest in that. I'm going to have a couple, $250,000, $300,000 set aside for me above and beyond what you're already paying me in compensation. So that's where I see the fit would be to marry the non-qualified deferred comp as the carrot, and then having some very basic human resources personnel agreement in place for the non-solicitation.
And these are documents, Will, that we as business owners, with the assistance of a third party or somebody like ourselves, put in front of the business owner, say, you're going to execute this agreement. Here's your non-compete agreement. Once that's signed off on, and at the same time, you're then putting that deferred compensation agreement in front of them. And that deferred compensation agreement, like you said, could have something in the line of, hey, stick around for 10, 15, 20 years. Stick around till your full retirement age. Help us, help me in this business grow, and you will be significantly financially rewarded for doing so. Oftentimes, though, Josh, they may say, well, once the agreement's in place, what do we do from that point forward? Then you got to put something in the agreement, which would be something that's going to grow tax-free. Maybe it's going to come out income tax-free down the road. Maybe it's going to take care of the key employee's family in the event of premature death. So oftentimes the most attractive vehicle or tool to put inside of a non-qualified deferred comp agreement is an accumulation life insurance policy, because it tackles a lot of things, a lot of benefits that employee might be looking for.
Jay, you bring that smile to my face when you say tax preferential, tax-free, tax-sensitive, all these things that an organization can look at and say, listen, we'd like the advantage of, you can do it taxable if you want to. There's a way to do that. It presents some obstacles. It does not nearly compare to a properly structured life insurance policy that's designed very specific. This is not your dad's term policy. This is a policy specifically designed and structured to create and accumulate over time in a very tax-preferred manner value that the organization, quite frankly, it provides. Another big thing for a CPA is to say it's got cost recovery built into it. So this isn't necessarily just viewed as an expense. There's an ability for an organization to recoup the money that they've set aside and not just be viewed as additional W-2 compensation that went out the door and didn't have as much value or much oomph to it as this non-qualified deferred comp would.
Love it. Jay, you got anything?
Yeah, I just want to every business owner that might be listening to this to consider, okay, again, base benefits are in play. I've got my insurances, my operating agreement, my buy-sell agreement. I've got insurance and disability covered, life insurance covered. Then we layer on top of that some of our other employee-type benefits. Then we layer on top of that the qualified plan, 401k. Maybe we're in a position to talk about defined benefit planning, which was in our previous episode. Or do we have either myself or other key employees that we want to carve out and do something special for where I don't have to do it with everybody else, and that's this non-qualified deferred compensation plan.
Perfect. Very well. Will, got anything else to add to that?
Nah, just, again, appreciate the opportunity to participate, and having a professional like Jay and yourself here to guide the conversation. I am grateful. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Well, on that note, if you think these topics apply to you, we can help. Take advantage of our team's 50 years of collective experience and reach out to us, start a conversation. You can text or call 251-327-2124, to leave a message. Plus, you can visit gulfcoastfa.com. That's gulfcoastfa as in financialadvisor.com, or visit pciawealth.com. You can find Mr. Will Steih there to hear this podcast and any of our other podcasts. While you're there, do us a favor, share the show. And to all of you independent and semi-independent advisors and agents out there listening and interested in the value that Jay Stubbs could bring to your practice, you can find him at jstubbs.com. That's JAYSTUBBS.com. So, fellas, another show in the can. We're doing great. There's some great content. Listeners, if you've listened to this particular podcast to this point, do yourself a favor. Go check out the other podcasts related to this B.O.S.S series campaign. So thank you, Mr. Will Steih, again, Prime Capital Investment Advisors, for joining us. Thanks to our producer, Johnny Gwynn of Deep Fry Studios. Thanks to my co-host, Jay Stubbs, the guy behind the camera, Mr. Travis Middleton, very talented. And a huge shout out to all y'all that have joined Jay and I on this journey, and especially to those of you that are joining us now. This has been Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay. Do you like the show? Do me a favor, please subscribe on the Apple Podcast app or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And while you're there, you would be doing us a huge favor if you would rate and review the show. It helps other listeners like you find us. Lastly, you like the show music? Go check out slothracerband.com. That's slothracerband.com. And they're going to take us home now. Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, PCIA, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA, doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management, PCWM, and Qualified Plan Advisors, QPA. Securities offered through Private Client Services, PCS, member FINRA, and SIPC. Gulf Coast Financial Advisors is independent of Prime Capital Advisors. Information presented for educational purposes only, is not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. All investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, be sure to consult a tax professional before implementing any tax or investment strategies.